A single extra dollar earned at work can quietly shrink a widow's Social Security check, yet hardly anyone explains why. The letters never say it clearly, the agents mention it only if you ask. And most people discover the rule when their payment suddenly looks smaller. It is called the earnings test, and while it sounds harmless, it decides how much of your benefit you actually see. Today we will uncover how working while widowed really works, the numbers behind the 2026 limits, and how you can protect every dollar you have earned. After loss, many people keep working for one simple reason. The world does not stop with grief. Work brings structure, a familiar rhythm, and often the health insurance that bridges the years before retirement. But inside the Social Security system, work also activates a formula that changes monthly checks. That formula was built to balance fairness. In theory, it helps by holding back part of the payment for those who earn more before full survivor age, and then giving it back later. In practice, it feels like a punishment when money already deducted from paychecks suddenly disappears again. The rule begins with a limit. Each year, Social Security sets a maximum you can earn before benefits shrink. In 2026, that line will be about $23,000. Earn less than that and your checks remain untouched. Earn more, and the system withholds $1 of benefits for every $2 above the line. The limit resets each January and usually rises slightly with inflation. The formula applies only until you reach your full survivor age, usually 67. After that, there is no limit at all. You can work as much as you want and still receive every penny of your benefit. To see how it feels in real life, imagine two friends. Both receive survivor benefits. Janet earns $20,000 a year at a library. Her income sits below the line. Social Security sends her full monthly check without issue. Carol earns $30,000 at a local school. She is $7,000 over. The system divides that extra by 2 and withholds $3,500 of her benefits spread through the year. Nothing she did was wrong, she simply crossed the limit. In the spring, a letter arrives explaining that her payment will be reduced or even paused until the withheld amount catches up. For those who live month to month, that news creates instant panic. The agency does not keep the money forever. Everything withheld before you reach full survivor age returns later through a recalculation. Once you cross that age, the program raises your monthly amount to account for the months when benefits were held back. They call it an actuarial adjustment. Over time, the totals balance almost perfectly, but the delay between deduction and refund creates confusion and sometimes hardship. Knowing that the system credits you later transforms fear into strategy. You can choose whether to stay under the limit or accept temporary withholding in exchange for work stability. Many widows ask whether wages from part-time jobs count. The answer is yes for Social Security purposes, but only the actual earnings from active work. Pensions, savings withdrawals, interest or rental income do not count. Those sources will not reduce benefits under the earnings test. The rule focuses only on paychecks or net profit if you are self-employed. Even self-employment income follows a slightly different schedule. Social Security looks at total taxable profit, not total sales after expenses. For someone selling crafts at home or consulting occasionally, that distinction matters. Profit under the limit means full benefits. Profit above it means temporary withholding. Behind this arithmetic is a simple logic. Social Security was designed to replace income after full retirement, not during high-earning years. The earnings test keeps the fund balanced by postponing payments to those still earning substantial wages. What many never realize is that the calendar used for calculation runs differently from your daily life. The system measures yearly totals but withholds monthly payments. That is how confusion arises when someone earns most of their wages early in the year and expects checks later. The repayment or catch-up happens slowly through adjustments, most often the following year. To plan wisely, you must know not only the limit but also timing. The earnings test applies only before full survivor age. Once you reach the month of your 67th birthday, the rule dissolves. From that point, work freely. Many people wait until their birthday month to return to full-time employment. Others plan part-year schedules to juggle income. Flexibility avoids disruption. Listeners often ask, what if I work part of the year or retire halfway through? Social Security includes a special rule known as the grace year. It refers to the first year you receive benefits after stopping work. The agency tests those months one by one instead of by annual totals. You can earn above the limit before filing and still receive a full check for each subsequent month you do not exceed the monthly threshold, around $1,900 per month in 2026. That tiny clause protects new claimants from being penalized for income earned before benefits started. Knowing these details makes it possible to create an income plan that fits. Consider Mark and Helen. Both lost spouses at 59. Both filed for survivor benefits at 60. Mark decided to stop all work. Helen continued part-time at a clinic, earning $25,000 a year. $2,000 sits above the limit, so Social Security withheld $1,000 annually. For Helen, the reduced check still felt manageable. The next year, inflation raised the limit and she barely crossed it. Her benefits returned to full. 5 years later, at full survivor age, the system adjusted her record as if every withheld month were simply unpaid vacation. Her monthly amount increased slightly, restoring everything she had missed. The difference in patience was emotional, not financial. Helen had learned that withheld was not lost. Planning becomes power once you see the pattern. You can adjust schedules, reduce hours, or spread bonuses across months to stay near the threshold. Employers often help when you explain that the aim is to remain below the Social Security earnings line. For self-employed people, carefully deducting legitimate expenses achieves the same effect. Tax planning overlaps with this strategy. For middle-income retirees, crossing the threshold can also increase taxable income if half of Social Security plus other earnings exceeds $25,000. Staying just below the Social Security limit keeps income lower and may also reduce taxation on benefits. Understanding both at once prevents double loss. Perfect timing is not only when you file, but how you work afterward. Beyond math, there is emotion. Many widows continue working not simply for money, but for identity. Work distracts from emptiness and restores confidence. The earnings test feels unfair precisely because it confuses contribution with penalty. You have already paid into the system. Learning that withheld benefits do come back changes resentment to strategy. Each dollar temporarily withheld adds a fraction of credit later. The patience required mirrors the patience you already showed in rebuilding life. Now, look at what happens when timing misfires. Suppose you earn $40,000 at 61 while receiving survivor benefits. 17,000 above the limit means Social Security will hold back roughly $8,500. If monthly checks total the same amount, payments may pause entirely for several months until even the agency will notify you by mail, adjust deposits, and later raise your check when you reach full survivor age. To those who expected steady cash flow, this shock hurts. Advanced knowledge lets you avoid it by tracking income and adjusting hours mid-month. Another hidden advantage comes at the end of the rule. In the calendar year, you reach full survivor age. The system raises the earnings limit dramatically roughly to $60,000 in 2026 and withholds only $1 for every 3 above that level. This partial freedom eases the transition for those still working. Once your birthday arrives, the rule disappears completely. Checks flow undisturbed no matter how much you earn. For many widows, this final change feels like financial independence returned. To protect yourself, remember 3 facts. 1. The limit changes each January. 2. Only wages and self-employment count. 3. Withheld funds come back through higher payments later. If you keep those truths in mind, the unspoken rule becomes simply another line in your budget rather than a threat. Checking your earnings is easy through pay stubs or online records. Compare totals mid-year so you still have months left to adjust. If you already crossed the limit, call or visit the local Social Security office before the annual report triggers an overpayment letter. Early communication converts penalties into planned withholding and stops the scary mail many people describe. For self-employed widows, another tip matters. Because self-employment profit is known only after the tax year ends, the agency bases estimates on prior years. If your business slows suddenly, notify them in writing. They will reduce expected withholding instead of waiting for the annual update. This small step saves months of missing checks for money you did not actually earn. Each story behind these rules carries the same message. Time shapes payments. Patience protects them. Awareness multiplies them. The formula only hurts those caught by surprise. Once you know how it works, you regain control. As the calendar turns to 2026, the limits will rise slightly, bringing usable space for those keeping part-time roles. The agency expects fewer disruptions because inflation adjustments help align wages and thresholds. Still, only those who track numbers will stay ahead, told a notebook called Income Plan. At the start of each year, write down the Social Security earnings limit. Under that line, record planned wages, project hours, and list months when you might exceed the amount. Check quarterly. This small habit puts you ahead of the system rather than behind it. Even with all this math, remember that work is more than numbers. Many widows say their jobs are what pull them out of grief. They keep working for structure, for laughter, for a reason to get up. The ability to work, even part-time, remains one of the best predictors of emotional recovery. Balancing that need with Social Security rules makes life steadier. At full survivor age, when the rule ends, every extra dollar of earnings simply adds to comfort. The years between 60 and 67 are temporary practice of patience. Planning for them means that when the birthday arrives, you can work freely, travel, gift, and enjoy without letters that confuse or frighten. The hidden equation is simple. Benefit minus work above the limit equals temporary loss. Time plus patience later equals restoration. Knowing this equation stops anxiety. Every withheld check returns as a higher amount when the rule expires. What once looked like penalty becomes a waiting account that pays back with interest. If anyone around you struggles with the same fear, share this clarity. Tell them that working while widowed is allowed, normal, and even encouraged with planning. The government simply times your payments differently, returning withheld funds later rather than paying everything now. Social Security was built as protection over a lifetime, not a punishment for continuing to live. Understanding the unspoken rule turns it from mystery into tool. You decide how much to earn and how the system responds. Awareness turns frustration into choice. When you reach that month where your benefits are finally unshackled, the first full deposit will feel like a breath of freedom. It is not charity, it is your money synchronized with time. From then on, the checks never shrink again, and every hour you choose to work adds rather than subtracts. That is the moment when effort and comfort meet. Take pride in reaching it. The learning you did today protects all the work you will do tomorrow. The rule explained. The fear replaced by knowledge ends where it always should, with calm confidence that patience always pays.